Now, I'm not one to gossip, but I will bring you the tea. Welcome to Chronicle Speaks.
Please, I don't have any time for any gossip now. Eh? Yes.
Look at you.
So here we are at Diddy trial day number 28, but let's first recap trial day number 27. So yesterday was a real bombshell. The jury was shown 13 sealed sexually explicit videos featuring Jane, Diddy, and multiple men, with Agent Cerciello revealing that there are around 50 videos in total, many filmed while Jane was allegedly under Diddy's control, and the court then reviewed disturbing messages between Jane and Diddy, where she said that she didn't want to be used or forced into hotel sex acts to keep a roof over her head. Diddy allegedly responded, "Girl, stop," asking if it would be a movie or an entertainment night. Now, messages with escort agencies like Cowboys for Angels was exposed, showing Diddy paid for performers even when they couldn't perform. Thousands of dollars were moved, hotels booked, assistants coordinated logistics, and Diddy's voice notes asked for baby oil, soup, and wads of cash. Now, Jane told Diddy, "It's been 3 years of me having to F strangers." And if that wasn't enough, the court heard more messages, booking details, and sexual demands. But during cross-examination, Diddy's attorneys pointed out that the government summaries, like Jane texting one of the escorts calling him cutie, saying she was horny and that she wanted to fly him out. They're pushing the narrative that this wasn't trafficking. This is something Jane actually wanted to do in her relationship with Diddy. Still, Homeland Security confirmed that most of these incidents happened before Diddy began paying Jane's rent in 2023, and other meetings may not have been documented. The judge said that closing arguments could begin Thursday, with each side getting 4 hours to convince the jury. And yes, the verdict sheet is ready, with the jury set to decide if Diddy is guilty of racketeering, sex trafficking, forced labor, or DRUG crimes involving Cassie or Jane. So now I ask you, is this the fall of a once mogul? We are going to get into trial day number 28 and so much more, but before we do, please be sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss out on any news regarding this case and so much more. Now let's get back into it. Now, to start the day off, the defense is trying to admit text messages into evidence that could show Cassie Ventura initiating and working to set up a hotel room for a freak-off with Sean Combs. This is part of an effort by Combs' lawyers to show he didn't coerce Ventura, one of the 2 alleged victims who are key to the government's sex trafficking charges in this trial, to participate in the freak-offs where Combs watched her have sex with other men. The prosecution responds to the defense saying these were acts with Mr. Combs in his office. They are simply not relevant. Judge says U.S. objection is sustained. The judge says here Mr. Combs is inquiring into what Ms. Ventura was going to do, and she replied, "Be your little freak." Johnson says Ms. Ventura is asking Mr. Combs for an explicit photo of himself, so it is about her boyfriend. Judge says here I overrule the objection. Estevao from Combs' side says Ms. Ventura writes she bought baby oil because she couldn't stop herself. She was buying baby oil on her own. Prosecution responds, "We don't dispute she wanted to have sex with her boyfriend." Judge says the baby oil purchase seems for a freak-off. Combs' attorney says they say Mr. Combs drugged people to make them do freak-offs, but here he counsels a freak-off because she's feeling sick. Prosecutor Johnson says there's no evidence the freak-off was canceled. She wanted to have sex with her boyfriend. Judge says, let's just hold off. Prosecutor says in this one, Mr. Combs asks if she can have a freak-off without taking DRUGS, and she says yes. It is being offered for its truth. It is hearsay. Judge says, I overruled the objection. Prosecutor Johnson says, here she says, I want my bank account to be right. We object. Diddy's defense attorney says this is Ms. Ventura demanding money. It is a command of sorts, not hearsay. Judge says, and how is this relevant? Estevao says it goes to financial motive. Judge says in 2017, I sustained this objection to 1135 on hearsay and 403 grounds. Prosecutor says that last one is 1417. It's about Ms. Ventura decorating a hotel room and getting flowers on Valentine's Day. Defense attorney says this is an sex trafficking freak-off as alleged by the government. This shows Ms. Ventura setting it up as a surprise to Combs. Judge says this is hearsay. I'm sustaining that objection, but the defense can see her being presented with the layout of the hotel room, the flowers, the photo can come in, and the messages with them. Judge says, all right, bring in and the jury. The jury comes in. Agnifilo says, can we have a restroom break? Judge says, fine. They go to break. Okay, so now we're back from break. Combs' Garrigo says, Your Honor, our arguments took so long that the jurors' devices turned themselves off. Judge says, they are high tech. All rise. Jurors, you may enter. Garrigos approaches the witness, Mr. Cerciello, from Homeland Security. She says, good morning. Pull up 1406 from December 21st, 2021. Jane, Combs, Don, and Cabral. Turn off attorney screens. We're going to watch some videos. Play from the beginning until 2 minutes and 22 seconds. The public and the press have no idea what the jurors are being shown or not, but one juror complains that their device says low battery. Garrigos continues, so what did she say here? Cerciello says, she writes, that's so effing sexy. Garrigos says, then she writes, I'm wet thinking about it. Heart emojis. Now Paul is in the chat, but your chart doesn't list Cabral's message with Jane. See 3328. Garrigos continues. Now it's December 21st, 2021. She reaches out to Cabral to say Happy New Year. Writes LMK, which means let me know if you want to come tonight. What does Cabral say? Cabral says, I'm cooking for my family, but tomorrow for sure. Is this not in your chart? No. Garrigos says, under Italian, let's see DX 3050. This is April 4th, 2022. Combs with Jane. You read Mr. Combs and I'll read Jane. Combs writes, I have been having crazy fantasies about Leo. You and Leo. Laugh out loud. Diddy continues, Adderall is the greatest. Laugh out loud. She writes to him with drool face emojis. Then in 1406, next is July 2022. You only reviewed what the government gave you, right? Right. Combs tells Paul to come over. Yes. Here Jane says, my place is free tonight. Then she writes, I got on my knees and thank God for the health of my child, for your friendship. Then heart emojis, right? Right. I'll correct you. It's been nice. Y'all remember yesterday he said it's been news. So she starts to laugh. Okay, we have GX 103. It's between Jane and Paul. He says, I don't memorize exhibit numbers. I don't know. Garrigos says, so let's show it. It's not shown on the public screens. She says, this is a message between Paul Arthur and Mr. Combs, who says staff is leaving. Garrigos says, this is the first mention of Anton, right? October 8th, 2022. Yes, he shows up. In these photos, E285, do you see the bracelet she is wearing? I do. Now the public exhibit screens are still not on. Garrigos says, Jane writes, can you come to Turks? What does he say? He says, yes, love, I have my passport, but not vaccination. She says, can you get to ATL, Cabral's base? A few days later, March 21st, 2023, she asks about Miami. Jane writes, tonight was fun. What does he say? He says, had a great time with you, baby. Okay, now April 2023, Jane, Combs, and Paul. He says, hey, Jane, true name. I am available, and she asks about the 19th. Yes. Jane says, I'll reach out. How about P? What does Combs respond? He responds, okay, you find the location? You in the mood? Jane says, didn't know you were unsatisfied. I stopped and got a couple of more outfits. Garrigos, as Jane says, I know what you like, Daddy. At the London before you left for NYC. You did a film. You forgot it. You promised you wouldn't forget it. Then smirky face, devil face. I'm coming, Daddy. That video you sent me, it was hot. Sweat emoji. Garrigos says, let's go back to GX 1406, May 19th through the 20th, 2023. Jane, Combs, Paul, and Cabral. What does Mr. Combs write? He writes, is Chef still there? She says, no. Laugh out loud. Okay, let's pull up texts from the personal assistant. Cerciello says, I don't know who. Garrigos says, Miss Corum writes, for the hotel they want fruit, outfits, shorts for him, size large, fruits and juices. She writes, are you hydrated? I'll be at the one hotel, residential side. Hey, hun, had a great time. Do you see that? Yes. Here Jane writes to Mr. Combs, I love you, can't wait to see you, with heart emojis. But now she writes, let's be positive. Remember how we turned it around at 1 star, right? Right? He says, you got Chef? Jane says, no. You know I was trying to get my chefy poo. Jane writes, are you coming to LA? How much would it be to compensate for missing a chef gig? He responds, sorry, love, I could have done it with enough heads up. Mr. Combs writes, hurry up. She is at the hotel and she is horny as hell. Need help. Laugh out loud. Paul responds, laugh out loud, right? Right? And Mr. Combs sends Paul an image. Does it look like Shaq? Yes. May we have a brief sidebar, says Judge? And they have a sidebar. Okay, so now they're back. Judge says we are taking a break. Okay, now it's 11:56 and they are back. Sean Combs is in a brown sweater and he's poring over a document with his lawyer, Nicole Westmoreland, then stands up to talk to Agnifilo. All rise. Garrigo says, back to 1406. Mr. Combs writes to Paul, security knows to let you in the back, right? Combs says P, not Paul. Jane writes, just to tell you I love you, listening to your music and making love with you. Part A, Rose, whatever we were saying. Back to 1406, August 12, 2023. He writes, movie night was off the chain. Garrigo says, she says, so we try something new tonight? He says, call Italian. She says, one hotel roof, good for drink and light bites. Smiley face, kissy face, right? Cerciello says, right. He says, baby, I'm stressed out. She says, I'm back to mommy mode. Garrigos continues September 19, 2023. That correspondence to many chats we looked at yesterday. Pull up 1407, not one by one, she laughs. Go to page 48. I just want to highlight a few that I didn't think were in the charts. DX 3187, Combs writes, headed to ATL. Then he continues, I can't even look. It will drive me crazy. Jane writes, muy caliente, with a sweating face. That shit was different. All of it. That was September 24th, 2023. Yes, says Cerciello. This message says, we had a great doll, D-A-W. Jane writes, daddy want to see mommy be bad tonight? Slide that D-I-C-K in me at the restaurant. No water. Emojis. Yes. Right? She writes, I'm going to blow your mind tonight. Can't wait to lick your nipples. Jane sends more emojis, drools. She writes, it's sexy here in the hotel. Yeah, we need to run to the freak store. Let's skip ahead to 55. She writes, I didn't have time to do my nails. And he writes, I effing love it. Okay, let's just quickly look at, this is Jane and Combs, right? Correct. Okay, line 913. September 30th, Jane writes, I love you, baby. Have a great show. This, I won't repeat here. She starts laughing. There's no location entries until February 8th, 2024. Christina Coram asked Jonathan Perez, how does he look? You could put him in front of someone, but he just took a full bar, so I think he'll be asleep soon. Now can we turn off the public screen? She didn't know the public screen has been off the entire time. Here you have flight records for Jane going from LA to Miami 5 days before Combs posts IG video, right? Right? Now a phone call from Anton to Jane, 0 seconds. What does that mean? The clock starts at ringing. We do not have the public screens on, so play this video. The gallery is not seeing anything because the screens are off. That was June 2024, right? Right? Let's play more video. Oh, 3 jurors' devices are not working.
The ghetto. The ghetto.
We have some more devices charged up. We'll hear the music. Now play the entire video. Now in this one, let's jump ahead to minute 7 and 8. Now minute 19. Okay, almost done. Please stop it here. Do you see the messages from Jane? I have the best memories. Okay, so 1408, let's bring that one up. Do you see account transfer of $22,000? Yes. Okay, in 1409, it was Jane. Fuentes Transportation. Do you see that? It has $151.99 for Jane's true name and also Cabral Williams. It's hard for me to see the lines. Can you move the cursor up? Public screens are still off. $324.50 and $760.25. Combs passes a note to Nicole Westmoreland, still seated at his right, who then whispers to Agnifilo's ear. Garrigo says, let's go to page 96. Sean Combs' personal bank account records. Total due $74,000 and an account transfer to the LLC, correct? Yes. Your Honor, may I have a moment? One more video and then we're done. The one that wasn't working this morning? Turn off the attorney screens, please. You reviewed the metadata, right? Which chart? That's a great question. She laughs. Play it. Garrigo says, thank you, agent. Please go back to keeping New York City safe. And then she laughs. Judge says redirect. Prosecution says briefly. Did we just see Sean Combs paying for the travel of Cabral Williams from Atlanta to Florida across state lines?
Why would she say that?
Objection, says Garrigo. Do the charts represent every text message in this case? No. Let's pull up messages before this date. Objection, beyond the scope, says Garrigos. Prosecution says, Ms. Garagos, you did it. Judge says, sidebar. Okay, so they are back. In this time frame, did you see any messages between Jane and Mr. Combs that were sexual or affectionate in nature? No. No further questions. Judge says, do you rest? Prosecution says, subject to. Judge says, jurors, take a break. Jurors leave. Comey says, we have essentially rested. We only may want to move for a few corrections. Judge says, Mr. Agnifilo, are you ready to move? Alexandra Shapiro from Combs' side says, we move under Rule 29. Inference is not enough. See U.S. versus Copeland. Shapiro continues, on count 1, Mr. Combs is entitled to a judgment of acquittal. The requirements of RICO have not been met. They have not shown the agreement to violate RICO, nor agreements to 2 racketeering acts. The enterprise is more than a group of people. The enterprise's purpose here map into the racketeering acts, sex trafficking, etc. See the Boyle case, a structure feature of a RICO enterprise, a hub and spoke, the rim. Here it is a rimless hub. There is insufficient proof to establish this 20-year-long conspiracy. Mr. Combs did not conspire with any other person. They say an inner circle of bodyguards, but they failed to show it. There's only thin proof they engaged in crime. At most, there were personal quantities of DRUGS. They used a lot of Astroglide and baby oil and drank, maybe some DRUGS. Jonathan Perez said hotel nights were personal times with a female. Brendan Paul said hotel for the night. David James said he saw a naked man in the hotel room, but thought that wasn't part of his job. The SEX with Cassie Ventura and Jane sometimes involved third parties, but they were not booked by staff. It brought them closer to Combs. Shapiro continues by saying that his assistants didn't know much, if anything, about what went on between Combs and his girlfriends in the hotel room. She says there's no evidence that Christina Coram, Sean Combs' former chief of staff, knew or believed that Combs' girlfriends were being coerced against their will. There's no evidence that Coram participated in or facilitated any crimes for Combs except potentially DRUGS for personal use. She argued that some messages showed Combs sometimes lied to Coram even though she was alleged to be his co-conspirator. That's not the way co-conspirators act with each other. She also noted that prosecutors alleged the conspiracy began in 2004 and Christina Coram did not become significantly involved until after 2016. She argues that Combs actually took steps to conceal the nature of the sexual activity he was engaging in from his employees. She said it's evident through the fact that Combs, Cassie Ventura, and Jane booked the entertainers and escorts instead of Combs' employees. Shapiro also pointed to several text messages, including some shown to the jury earlier today, that show that Combs and Jane communicated with entertainers about timing to avoid running into Combs' staff. Now, what she's doing is called a Rule 29 motion, and it's pretty standard on criminal trials. It's basically the defense asking the judge to throw out the case because they believe the government didn't provide enough evidence for a jury to convict. But here's the thing, these motions almost never get granted. They're routine. The judge will listen, but the judge will typically deny them. Now, Shapiro goes on to say that the jury did not see any text to Combs that would indicate Ventura did not want to participate in the freak-offs. A person in Mr. Combs' position clearly would have understood that. On the contrary, she enjoyed the sexual activity and did not feel coerced. She described Combs' relationship with Ventura as toxic for many reasons and acknowledged that Combs was regrettably violent towards her at times, but reiterated the defense's argument that domestic violence is not sex trafficking. Shapiro argued that the evidence showed Ventura was not coerced by violence into participating in freak-offs and that when Combs became violent with her during those events, she left. Shapiro says there's no evidence between the breakup with Cassie in 2018 and the beginning with Jane in 2021. Even for a RICO conspiracy, they have to prove a single agreement. It hasn't been done here. U.S. versus Pizzonia. Even if the court denied this Rule 29 motion, some should not go to the jury. Under the California law, the government had to show that the information was about to be given to law enforcement. Back in April, you found lack of probable cause. Mr. Combs was seeking to avoid negative publicity. For both himself and Ms. Ventura, there was no police involvement. The guard who testified said Ms. Ventura did not want to report it, and Ms. Ventura said the same thing, as did Carrie Morgan. Eddie Garcia said the money was for the video. Nothing more. Ms. Ventura appeared on FaceTime and said she had a movie coming out and did not want the video coming out. The NDA permitted Garcia to report to law enforcement. On obstruction, they have to show intimidation or threats to hinder or delay. Citing Arthur Anderson versus U.S., there must be conciseness of wrongdoing. Here the incident involved Mia and Jane. On Mia, there's no actus reus, which is an action or conduct which is a constituent element of crime as opposed to the mental state of the accused. Now, this is about D-Rock trying to get Mia to speak with Combs, but it sounds like a normal conversation under the radar went off. No threats were communicated. All D-Rock said was Puff wanted to talk with Mia. They wanted her to say something PR. Her reaction could not have been foreseeable to D-Rock or to Mr. Combs. She did not even answer Mr. Combs' calls later that day. D-Rock didn't bring up money. She did. She said she was out of dollars. D-Rock never acted on it. D-Rock said, if you don't want to, all good. The prosecutors characterized these as nice messages. There was no evidence D-Rock or Mr. Combs thought Mia felt threatened. So this is not witness tampering. There would have to be proof Mr. Combs knew of a federal investigation at that time. There is none. With respect to Jane, they have November 19, 2023. No threats. Mr. Combs says, this is when I need you to be there for me. Mr. Combs was already paying Jane's rent. There was nothing in the call about it. This is not corrupt persuasion. There's no federal nexus. Now they want to argue 159(1)(d). That would be a constructive amendment, as we'll say at the charge conference. Anyways, we think the statute is unconstitutional on forced labor. The statute was meant to enforce the 13th Amendment. It is used for domestic workers, here legally or not, forced to work, squalid conditions. These are able-bodied U.S. citizens perfectly capable of leaving when they wanted to leave. They did. What the two were most afraid of was losing was their job. With respect for Capricorn Clark, she continued to work to show that she hadn't stolen. Not being paid overtime is not forced labor. Capricorn Clark said Mr. Combs told her to get the F out of my house. She says that was crossing the boundaries. She got a higher paying job. She alleged wrongful termination, presumably because she wanted to stay. Then 50 Cent, with respect to Mia, she had a high GPA. She got her later job with Madonna, so the elements are not met with them either. On kidnapping, there is sufficient evidence as to 2 of the 3 allegations, even if you credit the U.S. witness, Capricorn Clark, and the lie detector test. Uncle Paulie took her to the building. This does not satisfy New York law. Mr. Combs didn't know. And then the other, Cassie at the London hotel. She said she was taken there and was held there for several days. California law has 4 elements, not met here. On arson of Kid Cudi's car, no evidence Mr. Combs was even involved. On count 2, Mr. Combs would have to know. I'll focus on his mens rea. It's about what he understood. How could he understand? Cassie said she did the freak-offs to make Mr. Combs happy. She didn't communicate reluctance. Look at the text. In the Intercontinental, the fight happened after the night of SEX, and there's no SEX after the violence. The video seemed to show that Mr. Combs, after he gets the cell phone, just sits in the chair in the elevator lobby. So no mens rea. As for Jane, she engaged in sex for economic benefit. For example, the house. There was 1 incidence of violence, which I'll get into. Fraud theory is deficient as the matter of law. Turk's trip ultimately happened. She wanted to go out for dinner. This would sweep in a lot of romantic partners. It has vagueness problems. People do this all the time. It's not fraud. Immigrants being tricked into SEX for green cards is different. He's a wealthy individual, but won't take her on a yacht. They never alleged SEX trafficking of Jane until they found out she was alleging a Circle incident of assault. That is telling. This theory of fault is incredibly weak. Fight at Jane's house in LA. This single act is not sufficient. There's no evidence that escorts came from outside of California. Escorts were paid for their time. Both witnesses said they were not prostitutes. Phillip and Hayes, they were called entertainers or escorts. Thank you, Your Honor. Judge says government. Government says there's more than enough evidence. Your Honor can reserve on that. If you like argument, I'd like a bathroom break. Judge says I can reserve. Prosecution says the defendant should be allocated. And Nifolo says, give me a minute. Judge Arun Subramanian is now conducting the allocation of Sean Combs about his decision not to testify in his defense. Subramanian asks Combs how he's feeling. He says, I'm doing great, Your Honor. I've been wanting to tell you thank you. Thank you. You're doing an excellent job. The judge chuckles and he says, thank you, I appreciate it. Subramanian asks Combs if he understood that he had the right not to testify, and no one can draw any inference if he doesn't. Yes, Your Honor, Combs responded twice. The judge asked if he had discussed with his lawyers whether or not he should testify. Yes, thoroughly. Subramanian asked if it was his decision not to testify in this case. That is my decision, Your Honor. Yes, that is solely my decision. Then he followed up by saying, it's my decision with my lawyers.
I don't know that I could keep him off the stand. I think he is very eager to tell his story.
The judge asked him if he understood that this was his own decision to make. He says, yes, my decision. I'm making it. The parties are taking a 15-minute break, and afterwards, the defense will present its brief case before adjourning for the day. Okay, it's 3:07 and they are back from break. The jury is entering. Judge says now the defense's case. Combs' lawyer says we enter into evidence this stipulation about devices provided to the government by Cassie Ventura. Mr. McLeod, DX 1402. Can you highlight row 5? The public screen is not on. Combs' lawyer says highlight local use. I'm the luckiest woman in the world. I'll get all the pictures together this week. So many good ones. Meanwhile, Combs is seated between Westmoreland and Brian Steele. Hands Westmoreland a pad. Combs' lawyer says, local user, I owe you a good night. If you wanted me to call someone, I needed to treat my pop better. I promise I will be better. If I don't, you can leave me. But that won't happen. Local user, Cassie, I love you and thank you for always trying with me. I will be a woman, not a child. I'm leaving that in 2012. Now pull up 1402, row 66, February 14th through 16th, 2017. DX 1417A. From Violet to Cassandra Ventura. Teamwork makes the dream work. Combs writes, you think you can freak off without getting high? Cassie says yes, smiley face. Okay, now 1136R. Blow up the first couple of bubbles. Cassie writes, send me a DICK pic. Miss Ventura writes, I just bought baby oil at the store because I couldn't help myself. Then I'm proud of us. We've been together for a long time. Baby, you do make me happy. I looked at my bracelet and it made me smile. Now she's speaking on stipulation notes. Some witnesses did not initially report threats or sexual contact by Combs to law enforcement. Daniel Phillips, a man Sean Combs allegedly hired to have sex with Cassie Ventura, told law enforcement in December 2023 that a female client called him and said her husband asked what she wanted and she requested to be rubbed down in oil by another man. In another meeting, Phillips said that during a freak-off when Combs would tell him to sit on the couch while Combs was having sex with Cassie Ventura, he would feel jealous as he liked Ventura romantically. At 4 of the 7 meetings Don Richard, a former member of Danny DeCane, had with the government, she did not say that Combs threatened her by saying where he comes from, people go missing if they say things, according to the stipulation. At Mia's first 3 meetings with law enforcement, she did not say that Combs initiated sexual contact with her, according to the stipulation. Brianna Bongolan, a longtime friend of Cassie Ventura, did not tell prosecutors that Combs said that he would unalive her at a photo shoot, according to the stipulation. Now, Combs' defense team has rested their case. Prosecutors do not intend to present a rebuttal case, and the judge told the jury that they'll be off tomorrow and should return Thursday morning to hear closing arguments. The jury has been dismissed for the day. I am sure that was a ball of confusion for everyone, but we are finally at the end. We will hear closing arguments on Thursday. Again, prosecution will get 4 hours and the defense will get 4 hours. Tell me where you are with this whole entire thing. Leave a comment and you know how we do. We'll talk about it down below. Talk to you guys later. Bye. Thanks for watching, but before you go, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and hit the bell so you don't miss out on any of my new episodes.